The Australian and New Zealand Cafe Hour was brought to you by Metaverse Ventures Entertainment and host Lilli and Ben68. Crikey! The information and opinions within are solely the views of the individuals involved and contains content delivered in legendary accents.
8, 7, 6. You do like what Uplando does and come in a minute late. 3, 2, 1. And it's time! This intro is very, very choppy.
I know. I cannot figure out how to play directly from the sound card. If you can figure that out for me, JJ, I would love it.
We love choppy. We love it.
Yeah, I bet you would. I bet you would, playing through the microphone, girl.
Yeah, well, it's the only way, and it was stuck in my hair, and I had to lean all the way over because it was still stuck in my hair.
Paints a picture.
Well, I just got out of the spa, so it's all kind of wet and stringy, and I couldn't get it out.
You should give the intro duties to Ben from now on.
Well, I tried a couple of weeks ago and failed even harder, so don't give it to me. Yeah.
Welcome, Ben.
Oh, yes. Speaking of intros, we better get this out of the road so Uplando doesn't give us a little smack. Just let everybody know that this is being recorded and it may be uploaded to the social medias and whatnot. Of course, all opinions are the responsibility of the mouth flappers. Not financial advice. Do your own research. Bring your own Vegemite. Done.
Oh, always. Never leave home without it.
No.
So we have a new player.
We do.
And they're in the cafe. Is it Cammy or Came?
Hey, this is that person. Neither. It's actually camels, but it's, the 7L, 2 S's. But yeah, camels itself isn't really available.
Tricky.
Well, that makes sense. Only after you pointed out, though.
No one's going to get it to look at it. Like, it just looks dirty, maybe.
There must be a story behind that. What's that all about?
It's not how my last name is spelt, but it's how it's pronounced. So nothing more fun than that. Although the kids at, in junior school used to try a few things.
As they do, of course.
Yep.
Now, you are a town planner from Brisbane, fairly new to Upland. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, town planning background, juggle a few things in that sort of space. But yeah, really interested in a few of the virtual sort of worlds. But yeah, this Upland makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Which parts specifically do you think?
Well, even just the user interface looks like some of the town planning programs I use. And yeah, it's just spatial data tied, it's like real world data imported into this virtual world. And so I did a few things like grabbing the open data from the LA County, like open data portal and stuff, and a few things like that. It's really interesting.
Oh, so more so the kind of blockchainy side of things. Is that what you're talking about? Because when I see the UI, I want to claw my eyes out.
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, so there's like a few programs, right? ArcGIS and QGIS, which is the free version, which looks just like this, and you just kind of have a bit of functionality of, making shape files like 2D polygons and all this sort of stuff. And yeah, I like that it's tied to the cadastre, you'd call it, of the real world.
Yeah, I'm not sure how accurate that is, though, because there are whole laneways that have been wiped over by the planning in this game. So
Yes.
Accuracy may not actually be a real thing in Upland.
But yeah, it's loosely tied, right? I found that out with the release of the northern LA, where a few properties I sort of identified that were, 2 properties in the actual LA data had been combined. But then I was chatting to Big Popper Pump, who sort of directed me towards a regrid. But then I think it's moved to some other spatial data like spatial site, right? Something else like map something.
Yeah, I think it's called Mapbox or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know how 3D spatial it is. I'm thinking it's more 2D spatial than 3.
Yeah, it's the 2D. Yeah, but it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
We always joke that right before the city releases, the interns are still up, burning the midnight hours, drawing the lines on, because some of the city releases have just been absolute horror shows. What's that? Sorry,
you roboting.
Hey, I'm a robot.
We missed half of that.
Oh, I was just talking nonsense anyway.
He was fine for me.
Yeah, I was just saying that, yes, some of the past city releases have just been hilarious, like as far as the lines and that, like thinking back to Oakland, the first release of Oakland was just absolute horror show.
I think you're the only one who was around then.
Yeah, no, it was bad. Like, it was like the neighborhood lines were drawn like literally straight across properties. It literally looked like the interns had got the black Nico marker pens out and drawn them on.
Oh, that would have torn people up. Oh, that's right. I remember all the complaints of, well, is this property in this suburb or this one?
Oh, yeah, plenty of people stooged themselves. Yep. I mean, that's easy enough to do as it is, when you're in the chaos of minting. Especially at that time, we were going for 3 neighborhoods for nodes at that point. So we were just in the chaos of minting. And yes, someone says, because we're on a Zoom, and somebody would say, hey, you, whoever it was, you're minting in the wrong spot. And they're like, holy crap, I just spent like 100,000 UPX just over the borderline. So,
oh, no.
Yes, it always happens.
So, have you gone all in, or are you just still sticking your toe in the water?
Very much toe in the water. The first thing I did was I lived in Kansas City just for a year when I was growing up. So I went and went to try and find my old house, and it's just outside of the border, Weatherby Lake. But one edge of near it is in it, so I bought like 7 props right on the edge of it. Yeah. But I haven't done too much. I'm a bit trying to work it all out still.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, Camel. He sent me some interesting stuff in DMs. Can you tell us your journey with that whole Craigslist side of things?
Yeah, that a few interesting things in DMs sounds fun. But yeah, so I just kind of I'm having some fun with it, I suppose. And I kind of packaged up a few of a little bundle of properties I've got and just took screenshots and things. And I tried to post it on like Zillow or something, like the realestate.com.au equivalent, like one of them. It didn't go anywhere, like wasn't allowed. But then I tried the local Craigslist of like the Weatherby Lake, Kansas City sort of area. And I just kind of posted it and listed like metaverse property, only one on the lake. And the stuff that was like, this is in Upland. Like, I tried to be straightforward. Like, so I guess part of that is we were the worst house on the lake, but there were some pretty nice houses on the lake. So I'm like, okay, there's a bit of money around there. It might just take one person of the like 200 properties on the lake or something that might be interested to just, maybe want to own the properties on the edge of it. So yeah, I listed on their Craigslist, and I got 2 responses. One was, is this a real property? And I mean, it's well below, it's like ridiculously cheap for what it would be real, and it says metaverse, it says everything. And I basically just went back, no, it's not a real property, but have a look at upland.me and, let me know if you want to talk further. And they just responded with this tirade of abuse, calling me some pretty like rough sort of things, which I mean is kind of Craigslist, right? It's so actually I read this at like 2 a.m. Just like couldn't sleep, whatever, and I'm like, what have I done here? Clicked on their link to like in their email footer, the signature line or whatever. It goes to a link where they do all this like tech consulting, like search engine optimization, app store, all this sort of stuff. So I'm like, oh god, some tech bros having a laugh here. So I sent back like, oh, haha, I can see that you're on your page. It says you've helped raise $23 million for startups. So like, haha, you got me. And just came back like, oh no, they are not joking. And just, Nazi, Zuckerberg, Oompa Loompa. Like, oh god. But yeah, that was pretty full on.
It was epic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like not fun.
I don't know. I thought it was quite fun. When I read it, I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Reading in third party is fun.
Well, I kind of went like, I've ruined this person's day, week, whatever. Like, they've obviously got some things going on. A mate said it was like Karen meets something. A Karen meets a crackhead is what it sort of seemed like. Because there's definitely something going on. But like, shit, I have actually annoyed this person, so I should try and bring it back up to a little bit nicer. Like, I know, and they haven't replied in like a day. So
yes, the first sentence was, "Dude, I'm a homeless living in a van. WTF? Get real."
yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, no.
But that wasn't the only response you had, though. The other one was even more interesting.
The one, yes, cool. I didn't want to just like go on a 10-minute ramble without anything back. Yeah, the other one was really fun actually. Like the local paper, the Kansas City Star. It's not like your big paper, but I think that I was looking at like 80,000 concurrent readers, like on weekdays or something, slightly more on weekends. So it's like small, but something. And yeah, like a journalist was writing a piece about metaverse stuff, and I guess it came up in a Google search of like the local Kansas City area, and arranged a call, had about a 50-minute chat about how, like, I mean, I barely understand how Upland works, so that's why I kind of reached out, Ben. I was like, what should I say? Because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want to like disparage Upland in any way. Like, I wanted to, or at least not say anything that was misleading. Like, so I was trying to talk through my understanding of it all, and but yeah, it was really interesting, and they're going to write up a piece about it all, and yeah.
Did it seem like he was coming in with an angle? Like a lot of these news pieces, like I've been reading a hell of a lot of metaverse news articles recently because of that Breaking Badly news show that we've started doing, and they seem to fall into two categories. One of them's either fully on board and it's all about, the possibilities and the tech and this and that. And the other one's just ripping it to shreds, saying, all a bunch of losers and, you're going to lose your money, that sort of thing. Did it seem like he was coming in with any sort of angle or anything?
So I agree that that's how most of them usually are. It seemed like, probably like a young guy trying to wrap his head around it. He wanted to write something for like the general public. I'm thinking it through in my head while I talk. But yeah, it didn't seem too far either way, to be honest. He was working out the story as we chatted, but then it kind of like went into like my thoughts about what he could write about and things. So it almost became like a collab on that. Yeah.
That's unusual.
Yeah, we kind of shifted it to like what would be the utility of Upland properties and things. And I mentioned that maybe a week prior, I was a bit, hesitant about the utility and things. But looking at a few of your videos, I was like, okay, like you're talking about the utility and the businesses, and that roadmap actually seems to be somewhat legit and that kind of thing. And the way you're doing nodes and everything, like, is extremely interesting. So I was like, there's more to it than I would have said like a week ago, as I said to him. Yeah. And I kind of mentioned what Superworld, it's like another virtual world that's tied to the real sort of globe. And that seems a bit more like rug pull, cash grab. Yeah, a bit more scammy, I think. But I don't know. I haven't looked at that one too much.
Yeah, it sounds like you're probably a good person to chat to because you're sort of at the beginning of your journey as well. So yeah, sound like the perfect person to talk to.
Oh yeah. So that was basically it. We were both feeling it out. Like I was like, oh, what's this online metaverse real estate companies stumbled across? Because that was like apparently the two things that came up in the local area. Someone selling like Decentraland stuff on like a real estate for the metaverse, and my post. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few of those pop up where, like, yeah, these kind of online virtual real estate agencies, and some of the articles, they talk about their portfolios, and they've got, whatever it is, 300,000 in Sandbox and 150,000 in Decentraland, and they've invested in 19 properties in they say they might have said New York, but if you look at the data, it's like the Bronx and all this sort of stuff. And you do the calculations, and that they're in Upland for like 2,000. It just seems like way off the scale, I don't think Upland's had that kind of, I don't know, the disparity between the economies of the different metaverses, and that is massive. Even when you talk about, maybe it's got something to do with like Ethereum-based NFTs and OpenSea versus, Upland's heavily leaning towards wax, which is pretty entry level. NFTs on OpenSea going for, what was one the other day? One of those crypto punks was 23 million or something crazy. And, there just seems to be a massive disparity between the two, like, ecosystems.
Yes, there is. When I was looking at NFTs, I was thinking, wow, unless I'm getting the real life artwork, there is no way I'm paying for that. When I was looking at Ethereum on OpenSea, I was just going, no, are they shipping me a real life version?
Yeah. And most of it's that cookie cutter crap, it's
yes.
It's a bloody lizard with a green hat and a blue hat and a mustache and sunglasses. And then there's another project, it's a koala or it's a this or it's a that, and it's just, yeah,
See,
I don't know.
I call those card games. So they're like collector's cards. So,
Yeah.
You just cycle through all the different ones. And I think Wax is the better place for that because you pay less and you can collect more, but you can sell a lot more. So, like, you can have a lot more to sell, which will get you the same amount of money, but more people will collect them and pay a smaller amount.
Yeah, you're right. It's kind of arse about, isn't it?
It is. I think they're on the wrong chain for that. I think, OpenSea is great for actual artwork, as in one of a kinds, but I still want the original or permission to print a full-sized version for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Campbell?
Do you not get permission? Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm new. I'm so new to it all, really, I guess.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you that. Like, it sounds like you got into Upland from the real estate side of things. And when I started Upland, there was no mention of NFTs or anything like that, or not even really metaverse. It was just purely a property trading game, and it's since kind of morphed into this. Are you like, what do you know about NFTs? Have you got any interest in it, or all that sort of stuff?
Recently, I don't know too much. So I guess I've been quite around the startup space since like late 2016, and everyone in that space has been talking all the blockchain stuff, and then NFTs a little bit, right? But I guess where I kind of come to it, and what I'm really interested in is just crypto blockchain has been such a large thing, and at the time I was like, look, I kind of get it, but the more you get into it, it feels like you really have to do it properly. So I didn't want to, I wasn't going to give it enough time to do it properly, so that I wasn't really worth doing too much. And then NFTs was similar, that hype, and that's kind of going away. And they've both gone towards like the utility of them, which is, I just find interesting. And I just kind of see this virtual world space as, it's got crypto, it's got NFTs, it's giving them both more utility, was combining them into this third sort of way. And I think it's just, throwing petrol on the fire, like an order of magnitude increase sort of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. So I'm also doing a PhD. I'm 7 months in, town planning related, and it's looking at a few concepts like techno solutionism. So really just tech will save the day kind of stuff, and sustainable development sort of things. And I'm getting so interested in metaverse type things. I'm thinking about a bit of a pivot towards looking at like non-Earth environments and what can we learn back and forth between like the real city-making town planning processes. But yeah, that's, I don't know. I'm getting really interested, I suppose, is what I mean.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, it definitely seems like many things are heading that way. Like we're talking now, like McDonald's has filed all these patents for metaverse-related stuff. There's Ferrari and Formula One's getting involved. There's every kind of big name company is starting to kick off the process. You're talking, big game companies are started as well. I thought it was funny the other day. I was speaking to More Cheese, and it was somebody else, another American, and I mentioned like when we were talking about McDonald's entering the metaverse, and I said, I could clearly see that because nowadays when we go to McDonald's in Australia, or Macca's as we call it, you walk through a hallway of what's like big, massive phones on poles, and most people do their ordering there. And she was really surprised about that. She's like, yeah, that's not in the States hardly at all.
Oh, wow, really? Because it's in every single McDonald's here. Very few people go to the counter anymore.
No, and I was saying the same thing. Like even like it's always cool to see like an elderly couple there, and they're like, "Oh, what the bloody hell are we got to do?" And they're pushing the buttons and they work it out. Yeah,
even drive through your pre-order.
So it seems like we're in Australia, we're already more down the road with that sort of stuff, and they're talking about, well, what's the utility of a metaverse situation going to be for McDonald's? Well, it's kind of already there with these big, massive iPad things. Like, it wouldn't be a stretch of the imagination to think that, like, somehow NFTs could be involved or some kind of gamification of that ordering process or whatever, It seems like there'd be many avenues for transition.
And even the children's toys, instead of getting a children's toy with your dinner, you would get a NFT, which is a little movie of one of the McDonald's characters doing something, McDonald's related or even learning related. So instead of the little books that they had, they could have digital NFT books where you could collect the set of those, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, there has, I don't know if it was McDonald's, but there has been different situations where you scan a QR code with your phone and then it unlocks these different things. Or one of my kids, he had some dinosaur book or something, and if you viewed it through your phone, it made it like a
Augmented
3D
reality, yes.
Yeah, like that sort of stuff. So I could clearly see that switching over.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly known worldwide that Australians are the major adopters of any technology. The only problem is that we're not a large enough market.
Yeah,
so everything costs us twice as much because we're a small market.
I guess we're a good guinea pig size then, perhaps.
Yeah, we are. We adopt technology faster than any other country, generally speaking. It's just that it's so expensive.
What about for the both of you? Like that graphic you showed me before, Lily, was awesome. With the kind of, I don't know, how would you describe what you do?
I'm in architecture, so I'm a building designer, but I also do landscaping as part of. So when you're doing a multi-million-dollar house, you include all the landscaping and interior design in the project. So that portion that I showed you was just me starting off with the rear landscaping section. So I've already done the front, and I was just trying to get a feel for the back, and it's got an old 70s style conversation pit with a fire pit in the yard and swimming pool and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
so like when we were looking to buy a house, before we bought a house, you'd get an address and you'd look through. Some of these properties have 10, 15 years worth of photos on those realestate.com sites or whatever, and you can get a sense of how the property's changed through renovations and whatnot. And we're talking about a metaverse situation and kind of blending like the kind of art stuff that you do with town planning and augmented reality. How long do you think it's going to be before you do? And they kind of do this, don't they, already, where you can do like a what do they call it, where you click on a thing and it's almost like a metaverse thing where you go into the property but you're not really there, you're looking around.
Yeah. Well, we do that now. So that was designed in Revit. And when I'm finished this stage, I will give a link to the client, and the client and the client's builder will both use that, and they can physically walk around the project. I will keep updating that like every month during the project, and they get a little character who can actually walk around the project. So Autodesk hosts that themselves, and you just load it in and they go to your Autodesk account and they just walk through it there. So they don't need to download anything. It's website based.
So that's pretty much a metaverse by everything except name.
Yes. It's just a functionality of 3D projects these days.
Yeah.
And rendering is a whole different thing. If you want to do stills and everything, you can render that in Revit, or you can send it off to somebody who will just make it a little bit more realistic. But for most clients, just having to hit the render button in Revit is fine. It's only when you're doing high rise where they want to sell, 300 units, where you start to get an external person to do it, because you just don't have the time and they have the expertise. So you just send them the Revit file and they tweak it in something like Studio Max or something.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, because that's kind of what Upland's at least talking about doing with, in-home experiences and that sort of stuff. And I always bring it up, that drives me crazy, that we had this in Halloween 2 years ago. We went into the property and we watched a video and that sort of stuff, and it's been crickets ever since. But it definitely seems like that's the angle we're hopefully moving towards.
Yeah, well, we were talking before about the gamification and stuff, and many, many years ago when, Second Life first started, Revit wasn't where it was yet. And I actually designed some real life buildings inside of Second Life and then drafted them up, because you could design something in an hour and a half in 3D, and the client had no idea where it came from. So you didn't have to say, "Oh, I did that in Second Life," because if you did that, you would have been laughed out of the country.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would do it in there, and they would get a realistic image that would take me 3 hours. Where Revit back then was crap. It really was. It was hard to use. It wasn't intuitive. The graphic results weren't great. And then as Revit got better, obviously I just moved back to Revit, but because you can do it all in one place there. But before, I used to actually split it up so the client had something that they could kind of look at in 3D, and you'd have to build everything to 1.5 times the avatar size to get like the equivalent real life experience. You couldn't build it to scale, but it meant you could, get out 3 designs in a day that could all be in 3D with a walkthrough.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's going to be funny,
So just thinking, a lot of like really big architecture firms and stuff are doing partnerships and going into a few of the other virtual worlds and stuff too. Like it's really coming across, right?
A lot of the big firms now have a room specifically with virtual headsets. So Revit also does virtuals. So there's plugins for it, and you can actually put on your virtual stuff and physically walk around it if you have a room set up for your client to come and view it that way. And the clients love it. So all the big firms do that now. They have a room specifically designed for that.
Yeah, and the sort of technology side of it that has been hard to do, that they're coming around to write it, is multiple people all viewing the same situated model. Because it was like easy to have one person looking at it, or everyone looking at their own version, but being able to have it like locked in place in the middle of a room and move around it was like that kind of barrier. But that all seems to be coming together well now.
Yeah, so a few years ago, I actually went off, probably a long time now, about 6 years ago, I actually went off to an Autodesk seminar in Autodesk offices in North Sydney and spent 4 hours up there with the whole 3D Revit walkthrough with the headsets and everything. And there was, I think, 30 of us at a go, and we all experienced that. They had visuals of up around the room so you could see what the person who was doing it was doing, and everybody had a go, and it was great.
Yeah, definitely. Does Autodesk have like a 3D, like a digital twin? Or is that just Nearmap is doing that and like ArcGIS doing that and those sort of programs?
Depends what you mean by digital twins. So, as I was saying, I can just upload my model, and it is based on real life coordinates. So you do put in your real life coordinates. It doesn't go right down to a parcel. You just give it the rough, coordinates so that you get your solar studies correct. So it does have some idea where in space it is. It's just not right down to it. So you don't start putting in the information from the surveyor for your points or anything. But I mean, you can get very close, but it's just not worth it at this point because there's no use for it.
Mm.
Yeah, for quite a few years now, we've had a few, or one company in particular, they've been trying to do community consultation, so like town planning stuff, all based in like Unreal Engine. And they've kind of shifted towards that rather than being like in your Autodesk and things, because they do like what's it like to be a human really well. So like a viewpoint from your eye level, intuitive sort of looking around, moving around. And they've even done things like, what's it like if the building's twice as tall? Click a button, building's now twice as tall. And you can be like, okay, maybe it's not too bad if it's too tall. And there's like a really good use case in Brisbane when they were doing a busway. They literally got people to effectively sit on their back verandas, looking out at where the busway was going to be, and then go, oh, okay, I guess it's not too bad. Or, okay, maybe it is really bad, let's do the thing.
Okay, well, we've done that in Revit for high rise. So small high rise, where we've modelled a lot of the suburb around it, mostly in just cubes, but actual roof heights and everything, gathered data. So the ground line is accurate, so it's from survey, and the roof heights and everything are from survey, and eave heights and veranda heights, but it's just all boxed. So that you can stick a camera on any spot and look and see what the damage is. So, that's done quite regularly.
Yeah. And I suppose just what's coming to mind is those actual digital twins. I know this is a different sort of tangent, but yeah, sort of in the lead up to some of the virtual world things, I suppose, there's many cities are just making a really detailed, complete model of at least their central business district. And it's really going into that building info modeling and really situating everything, and they're testing out scenarios. Like, what is it like with the traffic increases? And
even Wollongong, which isn't, a huge place, has a CBD city map. So if you're doing a building in Wollongong, you just go and pay them for the area, the surrounding 50 streets of where your building is, and you plonk yours on there and model it, and then council requires you to send that back.
Yeah. I used to work at a council in Sydney, and we had like primitive versions back then. But yeah, there's actually one in Brisbane that is interesting too. It's a First Nations sort of modelling. So they've modelled Brisbane and all current day, and also back 40,000 years, 2,000 years or so, and they kind of can seamlessly switch between the two. And it's just, it's a bit of an educational piece, and they've got a bit of a gamification of it, like the survival mode and things, or virtual songlines. I'm not affiliated at all, but I mean, there's interesting virtual worlds, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is, though, you don't want real life buildings in the virtual world.
I know there's no engineering, right? It's like your beam can be any distance.
Yeah, it's like skyhooks are a real thing.
Yeah.
You get those first architectural students who come out of uni and they do this great design and you go, yeah, but where's the skyhook? They go, what do you mean? You can't build that. What are you thinking? The client is not going to pay $6 million to find a worldwide engineer who's going to come up with a solution for that.
Yeah, and the pane of glass that's like has never existed that big. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. Sorry, go.
I was just going to say, but in a metaverse, skyhooks are a real thing. So you really want to make the use of that. I mean, unless it's a historic building or something in the public domain where people want to see the real life building, there should be no other replication of real life buildings.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I haven't fully thought it through, but yeah, you're right. It's this opportunity to create things that we otherwise, impossible. Well, there's impossible furniture, something where like it breathes and it collapses, isn't it?
Which is where an artist comes in very handy rather than someone who's qualified to design buildings, because once you are a building designer, you've got all these constraints stuck in your head.
Mental, yeah.
You can't ever get rid of, whereas someone who's purely artistic doesn't have those constraints and are never thinking about how it's going to get built or, anything like that. They're just purely about sculpture, and that's where the artist comes in the virtual world.
Absolutely. What did you think about those NFL ambassador videos? I went on a bit of a rant in the UDU meeting this morning. What did you think about those, like the models and the visuals that they had in there?
Well, A, that's not what Upland looks like, and B,
that's exactly what I said.
The buildings that are in here.
Yeah, I was ranting. I was saying, hang on a minute. There's like 50 different types of buildings there. What have we got? 3.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Where's that on? I haven't seen, but...
If you look at the official Upland YouTube channel, I think they've got a whole bunch of videos where these NFL guys are, I don't know, what's it supposed to be? They're like Godzilla or something.
I think so, yes. I think he's
kind of
referencing a Godzilla thing, yeah.
I mean, I watched part of one and it was just too cringe. I couldn't even stomach half of one, so I skipped the rest.
Oh, I did watch one to the end. Yep.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, like, looking at a few of the videos that you've kind of put out the last week or so, I don't know. But sorry, Ben, like I sent that list of the little rabbit hole I went down. But yeah,
Lilli doesn't know. Camel's reached out and I said, oh, you can check out some of the stuff we got going on because, we got so many different shows going on with the MBE. And yeah, he's come back and said, oh, watch this one and that one. I was like, holy crap, you did go down the rabbit hole.
I don't have time for rabbit holes.
But yeah, it seems like there's a bit of a disconnect between what the roadmap has been, the businesses, that sort of thing, the functionality, and like how it's rolling out. Like,
well, I think all of this has. I think you said it before too when we were talking about the guy that you interviewed. Like, what's the functionality sort of thing? Where functionality has lacked from the team, the community has made their own sort of thing. Like, and I've been saying this, we've been saying this in the community for years, that it really does feel a lot of the time that we're the cart pulling the horse,
Yeah. I mean,
the community makes it and the game catches up 6 months later, if you're lucky.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost better than the other way around, where they're just pushing features on people. I mean, sorry, it definitely would be frustrating. But I was just thinking, like, I guess one of the reasons I started going, okay, Upland's pretty legitimate, was, the really active community. Whereas you look at some of the other ones and it's just, like, ghost town.
Oh, so let me get in on my rant for the week. I know
here we go.
A good rant, Ben.
A good wine, yes.
They promised us this UpX transfer feature where we could transfer UpX items.
Yeah.
And so everyone's excited, just waiting and waiting and waiting for it. And eventually they announce that it's getting close. So everyone's on the edge of their seat and then they deliver it. And what a flat delivery that was. nobody, 90% of players cannot transfer UPEX. It is completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it was. I happened to be in DMs with Mass and Nova at the time, negotiating for the Stage 3 MTU contract. And, like, you can imagine the amount of UPEX that I've spent through those guys to get those properties built and what I'm looking to do. It's a lot of burners. I was fortunate that I secured a really nice little area in Fresno, so I'm kind of using that as my burner playground. So I'm going to keep all of those properties very long term, and we'll eventually build apartments or whatever. But yeah, if I was able to just transfer UPEX directly, well, it negates all of the need for that, which is what we've been asking. But this whole thing where you got to hold the UPEX for 60 days, like, who the hell has untouched UPEX in their account for 60 days?
That's right. A player who plays the game is constantly turning over their UPEX. It's constantly revolving. You go down to 0, you go back up, you go back down to 0. There's nothing in there that's still there after 60 days.
No, I don't know. It's really missed the boat on that one. Like,
from what I was reading, it's like, sorry, they're really trying to be like the legal sort of side in the US. Is that what they say it is? Yeah, okay.
I would imagine so, yeah. But it's just, you may as well have not delivered anything. Yeah. Because it's essentially useless. You can't use it.
It is. The whole thing should have been, if it's in-game earnings from in-game things that you've had for 60 days, like rent on properties that you've owned for more than 60 days, it should count. And it doesn't. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And even treasure hunts. Well, hang on. I'm doing treasure hunts. Why are these things not counting towards my UPEX transfer balance?
I guess it's just too hard to keep track of. Like, if someone was to buy 3 million UPEX, like, how do they specifically track that without it getting mixed in with other stuff? Money laundering such a funny subject, and if there's loopholes, people are going to find it. So I don't know.
Yeah, but it does have a different ID on the blockchain when you treasure hunt. So all you have to do is treasure hunts. It's a different ID. You can track your treasure hunts easy.
So you just got to write the correct smart contract, and it shouldn't be an issue.
That's right. I mean, rent may be an issue, sure, but even then, it has a different profile again, so you can see what's rent. So why isn't rent counting either? It's ridiculous. It just my head is exploding over the stupidness of this feature.
Yeah, well, and I've got a prime example coming up in the next 2 days. I'm about to pay off my Stage 2 contract, which is about 1.2 million UPEX. I've been saving my dividends for like the last week. Like, that's all in-game money from properties. Some of those properties I've had for over 2 years, and I can't transfer that. I tried to transfer Cheese 20 UPEX, and it's saying that you don't have a balance. I'm like, there's over 1 million in the account and you can't transfer 20 UPEX. There's something very wrong.
There is. I mean, when they first did it, they didn't tell us that in-game income did not count. So I thought, great, I'm going to test this and I'm going to send some UPEX, and it did not work. And I'm looking at it going, hang on, I left LA with 1,000. I'm now at 40,000 and you are not letting me send anything. Why is that? And it doesn't work.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I don't understand it well, but it sounds completely ridiculous. Yeah. Like, this sounds like the complete opposite way to roll it out. And you've already, you just think it through, you've got the solutions.
Yeah, everyone too was thinking, oh, wow, that means when we have new users in the game and they don't have enough UPEX to buy the 3 properties to get them started, instead of buying useless properties at twice the amount that we then have to get around to selling that we don't want, we're going to sell at a loss, we could just give them the money. 3 people can get together and just donate the new player the money and we're done. That's never going to happen.
And it also impacts on the MetaVenture businesses. Like, I know the Block Explorer shops still have to do legit swaps instead of direct transfers. And
Yeah, and we're talking, millions a week as well for them that they're turning over, and they can't use any of it.
yeah, it's a weird one. Maybe Camel's right. Maybe there's some kind of SEC bloody thing where that's just what they have to do, and they're trying to push a round peg through a square hole or whatever it is.
Well, just don't promise things you can't deliver. I mean, if it had been stayed in the hashtag soon section,
yeah,
nobody would be complaining.
Lily's fired up. I love it.
It's one of those things that they'll just get around to when they get around to it. But then bringing it out, saying it's done and it's half-assed and useless, that's my issue.
Do you think we're getting to a point where the team might be a bit gun shy to talk about new features? Because we've seen before, like this whole thing with nodes and all of this community developments and that. This is all based on like 2 or 3 sentences that were put together about the potential to spawn neighborhood collections and that sort of thing. Like, I tell everybody that gets involved in the UDU sort of situation or any node project that I'm a part of, like, this could all be for nothing, We're only working with the information that what we have at hand, and the information that we have at hand is extremely vague. So yeah, I don't know. I think they might be a bit wary of putting information, and we've seen this before. What was it? It was not the code of conduct. What was that thing? That American thing? And everybody just picked that apart, word for word, and just roasted them.
Well, they had to, because even with what it said, it's still not clear. Nothing is still clear, and even when you read it in conjunction with terms of service and the Constitution, there are still holes in things that you just don't know the answer to. And the only thing that we have got an answer to out of that is that any transaction which avoids paying fees is against the terms of service. That's the only clarity we got out of that whole document. And it doesn't even say anything else. Just if you're avoiding paying fees, you're breaking the rules.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange one. And I saw on Twitter too, Atomic Hub, he was roasting them about I think it was one of those last Medium articles that they pushed about MetaVentures, and they had a subheading, intro paragraph here or something. They hadn't even, the quality control on some of these things is just abysmal. But it's entertaining.
Really, they can't even use a spell check.
Yeah. So we just got a question in the Upland Café chat from Majors Antright, I believe, asking, has anybody had any builds completed since the SoFi Spark debacle? Yes, I've had 3 of my UCC contracts builds completed. I did have one situation though that I was pulling my hair at. There was one property there that had just kind of started to be built on, and the UCC team were trying to stack their Spark on, but the property was just locked in updating construction, and so they couldn't stack their Spark on. I said, well, I'll just demolish it and we'll start again, not realizing that you can't interact at all when it's stuck in that kind of limbo updating construction situation. And it went on for, I think it was probably 12, 15 hours. And, clearly nobody was doing anything. So you know what it's like. I said, well, I got to contact support. And, but it has since then cleared itself up. So I don't know if that was somehow tied up with that whole stadium drama or not, but that's the only problem that I've had. I don't know, anybody else?
I had one finished. I have one finished, and it finished fine. And I started another one, and it started fine. So
same. Right after the build, I think, or maybe a couple hours before the stadium finished, one of my builds finished, and I started up another one immediately. Or maybe right after build, the stadium finished. But the thing is, when I upgraded from Upland to Directa, that's where the Spark issue happened. I didn't get my bonus for the Spark, and then you see the percentage bonus for the spark, because this week's like a spark week, so you leveled up, you would have gotten like a bonus spark. In my case, I would have seen an extra 0.1 on top of my 0.5.
Yeah.
So I sent the support.
The team has said they're working on it, so even the treasure hunt spark hasn't gone out this week, because I think they'll be putting the level up spark first, and then they'll get to the treasure hunt spark, I'd say.
That's beautiful. All right. Yeah, no, I wasn't even in a rush for it. I wasn't even worried. Like, I sent the email out. I know that they'll get to it. Like, they're a very tight team, so I respect it and understand. But, I was also one of the players that also has ran into a problem after the build.
Yeah. Well, my spark is still totally broken. I can't do... I can start constructions on mobile, like I'm predominantly mobile based. I can start constructions, but I cannot interact once they've started at all. It just glitches the game and white screen crashes it. So I've had a support ticket for that open since the 18th of January. And last week support got back to me and they said, "Oh, hi, sorry for keeping you waiting. Please be advised that the issue is fixed. So the structure and the spark should be visible now." And so I was like, great. I went over and made sure that the app was updated. And I had to reply immediately. Unfortunately, no, the glitch remains in the app and I still can't do anything. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the story is. So if I want to interact with anything to do with my Spark on properties that are already being built, I have to get the laptop out, log in and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know what the deal is.
I don't know. See, so much of this Spark stuff is done manually. Like the treasure hunts every week is a manual thing. They manually go in and send it out. And I don't understand why they don't just give it to you when the blockchain says you've got Spark.
Yeah. No, I know that drives Steve crazy. Like, he's a bit of a blockchain guru, and he was even put a wine of the week in for the UDU meeting this morning. Was, they wrote the smart contract to return these people's Spark with this, this drama. Well, why didn't they write in the 2K reward with that at the same time?
Yes. No, we had to wait another day for that.
And that, again, that's all been done manually, apparently. So.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you have just written a script and run that instead? And then you could have reused the script at any other time.
Yeah, I don't know. I try not to ask too many why questions. You just bang your head against the wall.
Yeah, same as the manual Spark drop every week. I mean, if you get a treasure and it says Spark, the blockchain knows. Why doesn't it then just send you Spark?
Yeah.
Why is there not a call back to Upland to say send this person Spark?
But then we've had Spark dramas. Like, wasn't there another one today where suddenly people that could upgrade were getting Spark they shouldn't have got, and they were upgrading when they shouldn't have been able to, and that sort of stuff? So.
Yes, they were having an invite to upgrade to levels that they weren't, shouldn't have been able to access yet, but they didn't work. So we had someone try in the cafe live, and it did not work.
Oh, so it's probably just some kind of UI glitchy thing then, rather than back end.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's something at least.
Like a tester for everybody to see if it worked. So if Upland came after him, we could have gone, no, we were there, we watched, we knew that he was testing it.
Yeah. Put the daggers away.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Geez, we're nearly out of time. Camels, it doesn't even feel like we got to talk to you much, mate. There's been so much going on.
You were talking about such interesting things that I didn't really have anything to add, so I was just like, so it was a good learning experience for sure. But no, it's nice getting to properly chat, and I'm keen to talk further.
Yeah, well, Lilli and I have been trying to. How long have we been going now for? 10 weeks or something, I think. We've been trying to get this kicked off, and everyone's just a little bit too laid back. We have somebody who'll jump in one week and not the other, and so.
I mean, Ben and I have each had a week where we couldn't attend for one real life reason or another, but the rest of the time we've been here, and sometimes we've been here shouting to the void on our own.
Yes.
Sounds too real.
So hopefully we get you back, mate. We'll have to dive in and discuss a bit more how your journey is. It'd be good to get your perspective on, what have you found has been frustrating or whatever, or what's been what's worked well as far as the UI, because a lot of us people that have been around for a while, we take a lot of things for granted. And I know Uplander brings this up fairly regularly too, even with the terminology and that sort of stuff that we just bandy around. There's a lot of assumed knowledge that must be a pretty big hurdle to jump over when you're just starting out.
Yeah, that was remember Elon Musk said a memo about acronyms, initialisms, and lingo and stuff. It's a good one, actually. I send that about 4 times a year to people. It's just kind of funny. Sure. But it brings into that, that assumed knowledge and stuff, that barrier when new people come in. But I think everything you've discussed, I generally knew what it was about, so you weren't bad. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, even down to, you start off with your first conversation with somebody and you say, so where is your BE? And you forget. You have no idea what a BE is. You have to say the actual words, Block Explorer. Oh, and by the way, we call that a BE.
Yeah. Or even mint, if you're not somebody that comes from the NFT side of things, or just go and mint a property. People are like, what are you talking about? Going to brush my teeth or something?
And some people think when you say mint, that you just mean buy, and you're trying to explain the difference, and they can't get it through their head that no, secondary is not minting. This is how we make the difference between the two.
Oh yeah, that can be painful. I just minted 5 properties in Chicago. Hang on a minute, that's sold out. What did you do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
I feel
trying to get people through those first hours is sometimes really hard because you're speaking 2 different languages and you have to step back and go back to, you've forgotten how to speak the language, please explain it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Kansas City is largely unminted, I think, right? But I had a pretty fun sort of experience, a bit of back and forth with people, just in game with offers and stuff. And even that was just extremely fun. And I just kind of bring it up because I was looking at this area that, there was one property, for sale from, so what had been minted, secondary market for sale, a few around that were unminted, and then one that was owned, and then, a few that were unminted. And so, I bought the one that was for sale, kind of bought up to near the one that had been minted but wasn't currently for sale. So I put an offer in, they rejected. I upped it a bit, they rejected. I went away for 24 hours and they had listed it at 10,000 UpX more than I had my last offer, bought it, and then I came back a day later and then they had bought the 2 further and bought it for 40,000 and then started listing it for 200,000. I was like, come on, mate, I didn't want it when I was 40. I'm not going to 5x it now. And then some the other properties were getting sold around, and it was almost because this activity was happening, I guess someone big kind of came in and just bought 20 properties everywhere around it, and then listed it at 10% more. Big dealer. I don't know. Yeah, I was they just came in, bought stuff for 30,000 each, then listed it 35 straight away, and I was damn, it was actually just really enjoyable, having this cat and mouse kind of fun little game there in my own little part of Kansas City.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's no shortage of games to be played. For the lack of gamification, people find ways to amuse themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. They certainly do.
Yes.
I'm thinking of something right now.
Yeah. Some of the offers I wake up to in the mornings, it's just hilarious. I just reject any offer that isn't front loaded with a DM, just as a force of habit sort of thing. So some of the doozies you get, and the people are just relentless. I'm like, keep at it, mate.
Yeah,
the only
I'm
offer
on
I've
the
had.
other side of that right now. There's a property that I want, and I know how much they minted it for because I was trying to mint it and my mint failed, and they ended up with it. And so I'm offering reasonable on it, compared to what they minted it for. It's not worth anything to anybody else. They obviously can see that I want it, but they're really out there where they think that what I'm willing to pay for it. So, and they're not on Discord. So,
that's frustrating.
If they are, I don't know who they are, and I'm not going to put a call out to find out if they're in here because their name obviously doesn't match.
That makes you more desperate.
Yeah, I mean, originally they relisted it for my whole net worth. So, hello, you could have just looked me up.
All in.
So, no, it's not where. I mean, I'd like to have it. I don't need to have it in any way. I can just let it go.
Cool.
So,
all right. Well, I think we've. Oh yeah, finish up camels.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, I was just trying to buy one in LA once, and then like my Block Explorer was slowly creeping towards it. Then it was bought and then listed at 3 or 4 times 4x. Like right away, I was like, damn, I'm not putting 1,000 USD into it to own that property. So that barrier to entry is pretty rough.
They're asking 100 times what it's worth minimum.
Okay, I'm like I don't have UpX. Like I'm not putting in USD. Like it's that disconnect, I guess, a bit. Yeah, being like a new player, like you kind of really do think about stuff in like fiat currency, not just in game. I don't know. Interesting little thing. Maybe a chat later. But thank you. Like chat's been amazing. Thanks for including me in it.
No worries. It's your show as much as it is ours, so please jump in. Otherwise, it's just Lilli and I rehashing the same conversations over.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, for a week or two.
It's really not.
All right, I think we've used up our time. Lilli, can you sign us out with you got the music going?
But the sky began to fall. Am I ever gonna see your face again?